Good afternoon, John. This is my weekly interview. So I'll just go down, I'll ask myself the question and then I'll answer it and then I'll just go down the list. So the first one, discuss the concept of creating a bottom-up CDT. So this is Appian's best practice of creating custom data types. The first way you can either do it bottom up or top down. The bottom up is obviously the best practice. The way that you do that is you create an actual database table with all your necessary columns in that prior to creating that custom data type. So Appian can actually look up a data table, and from there you can create a CDT with all of those columns that you created in that database table in that actual CDT for you to use throughout your processes and edit any existing data and actually fill that database table throughout using that CDT. The next question, discuss creating a relational table derived CDT. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the bottom-up CDT approach. So a CDT, if you create it with a bottom-up approach, it is going to be a relational, it has a relation. So the CDT, if you create it with that bottom-up approach, it has a relation to a database table because you pull that database table into Appian and create that CDT using those columns and that database table that you've already created in whatever database that you are using for whatever company. In our instance, it's MySQL. Number 3, discuss creating nested CDTs. So nested CDTs are a bit tricky. They are real powerful, but they can slow down the user experience if you have big CDTs that you're trying to nest in with each other. So a nested CDT is having a specific field in a custom data type that links to another custom data type. So it's like a data type within a data type. So an example would be, you have like state initials and you're trying to fill out this application, and the CDT, the main CDT is the application, and you say on the interface, it's like, hey, fill out a state initial. And so instead of having the user type the initials, you'll have a list of 50, 51, however many you want of the initials that you want for the state. And so that list is an actual CDT that points to another database that is just you can configure it to have it just be a read only so that your users don't edit that CDT at all. It's just a better way to organize your data, but it can be tricky. It can actually slow your processes down if you try to nest big CDTs into other ones. Number 4, list and discuss a minimum of 2 JPA annotations covered in last week's material. So first one would be, JPA annotations are used to, kind of fine tune the way that your database actually looks, for readability, for, ease of access or anything like that. So the first one would be at table. So at table, you can actually go at table parentheses name equals, and then whatever your database table is. By default in MySQL, database tables are named, if you do it top down approach, if you create a CDT using top down approach, create the CDT first and then map it to a database table, the default would be all lowercase in your database table, whether it be your columns or your tables, your table names itself. So with this bottom-up approach, you can actually configure your naming conventions in your database table to be capitalized, however whatever your naming convention may be. But then you can actually go in using these JPA annotations to fine-tune the naming of the columns and the tables. And so the next one would be at column. And so you can actually go in, once you create another field in your CDT, if you needed to edit that CDT, you you download the XSD file, you create another field in that, you re-upload it, and now your database table has a new column. And you want to make sure that it's readable rather than like in your normal CDTs you do lowercase, but in your database table you want the column name to be Pascal case or camel case or however your naming convention would be. You can actually go into the XML and say at column parentheses name equals whatever your name is, however you want it, and just after you save that and then re-upload it, it will actually configure that column name or that table name to be the way that you want it to be. The last one, discuss the differences between a database table and a database view. So database view is a read-only version of potentially all of the database tables that you want to display on a certain grid or anything like that. So you can actually connect different tables through foreign and primary keys so that you can display multiple rows from separate tables rather than just displaying one database table at a time. So you can kind of consolidate all of that information into one specific view for a user or a stakeholder or whatever your instance may be. And then on the flip side, database table is the bare bones of what your data is. So you go, you have your database table. If you're using the bottom-up approach, best practices, you create your database table, you create your CDT, you map it, you map those two together, and then however your processes work, whether it be through interfaces or through integrations or what have you, it'll fill that database table up, and that is actually where your data for your application is stored, rather than a database view being a read-only version of that data that you stored. If you have any questions, let me know. I think that's it. It was pretty quick. Thanks. Bye.